Hello everyone. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. It's not just about doing what you should do, it's doing it even when you don't feel like it. That's where the power lies. Start with one promise to yourself and keep it. Wake up a little earlier, read a page a day. Small wins lead to big habits. Your future is shaped by what you do daily, not occasionally. Discipline isn't a punishment, it's a path to freedom. Start with small, consistent actions. This is where discipline truly begins. Many people believe that to be disciplined, they must make radical changes overnight. They imagine waking up one morning and completely transforming their life, hitting the gym at 5 a.m., quitting all bad habits, reading a book a week, and mastering a new skill before bedtime. But the truth is, discipline doesn't come from grand declarations or overwhelming schedules. It starts with the simple, the repeatable, and the doable. It begins with one small commitment and the decision to honor it every single day. Think of discipline like a muscle. You don't walk into the gym on day one and lift the heaviest weights. You start with what you can manage. You build strength through repetition and consistency. The same applies to your habits and routines. Want to become more focused? Start with 5 minutes of quiet time each morning. Want to be healthier? Replace one sugary drink with water today. These are not dramatic changes, but they are foundational. And over time, they lead to transformation. When you begin with something small, something manageable, you remove the friction of resistance. The mind doesn't see it as a threat. There's no panic or overwhelming fear of failure. You are simply nudging yourself forward. And that nudge, repeated daily, becomes momentum. It's the daily brushing of the teeth instead of a one-time dental surgery. It's maintenance, it's care, it's respect for your own time and energy. Consistency is more powerful than intensity. You could work out for 3 hours once a month, but it wouldn't make much of a difference. Walk for 20 minutes every day and you'll start to see real change. It's the small, consistent effort that compounds. Over time, it becomes identity. You no longer have to remind yourself. You are disciplined because you do the things that a disciplined person does. Not once, not occasionally, but daily. Small actions are easier to track, easier to refine, and easier to sustain. They give you a sense of progress, which is crucial. Progress builds confidence, and confidence makes you more willing to stretch further. Once 5 minutes becomes easy, you naturally increase it to 10. Once one healthy meal becomes routine, 2 follows. You grow into bigger challenges by mastering smaller ones. Starting small also helps you stay present. You're not worried about how long the journey will take. You're focused on the next step. And when your focus is on the step in front of you, you move forward with purpose. You eliminate excuses. You train your mind to honor the process, not just chase the outcome. You learn to trust yourself in the little things, and that trust is the foundation of greater discipline. Another advantage of small, consistent actions is that they're less likely to be disrupted by life's chaos. Life is unpredictable, schedules change, crises emerge, and motivation fades, but when your routine is simple, it's hard to break. You can still read a page of a book on a busy day. You can still stretch for 5 minutes even if you're exhausted. These tiny actions may seem insignificant in the moment, but they're proof that you're showing up, and showing up is what discipline is all about. People often underestimate the power of momentum. But the truth is, momentum starts with a single step. That single action, repeated daily, becomes a rhythm, and once you find your rhythm, discipline feels less like a burden and more like a flow. It becomes part of who you are, and when something is part of your identity, you don't negotiate with it. You don't have to find motivation, you just do it because it's what you do. Every big achievement is made of small disciplines stacked on top of each other. The athlete doesn't just perform on game day, he practices every morning. The writer doesn't publish a book in a day. She writes a little each day until the story is told. The leader doesn't become wise overnight. He learns one lesson at a time through consistent effort and reflection. Starting small also creates resilience. It teaches you that setbacks are not the end, just part of the process. When your discipline is built on small habits, missing one doesn't feel like failure. You know how to get back on track. You don't have to rebuild everything from scratch. You just return to the last good step and continue. This approach also encourages self-awareness. You learn what works for you and what doesn't. You're able to adjust without guilt, without shame. You become more in tune with your own rhythms, energy, and priorities. And when you understand yourself better, you build a discipline that's not forced, it's chosen. It's aligned. It fits your life rather than fights it. So often, people give up not because they lack discipline, but because they set the bar too high too soon. They confuse ambition with sustainability, but ambition without structure leads to burnout. Discipline, on the other hand, thrives on structure, and structure begins with small, repeatable steps. You don't have to wait for the perfect moment or the right feeling. You just have to start. Start with what you can manage. Start with what feels too easy even. That's okay. It's not about proving anything to anyone. It's about proving to yourself that you can follow through, that you can build trust with your own intentions, that you can keep showing up even when the results aren't instant. Small, consistent actions give you that power. They create the evidence that you are the kind of person who follows through. They remind you that change doesn't require magic. It just requires movement, one step, one page, one decision at a time. Keep promises you make to yourself. That is where the roots of real discipline begin to grow. We often talk about integrity in terms of how we treat others, honoring commitments, being dependable, standing by our word. But the real test of character lies in how we treat ourselves when no one is watching. Do we show up for ourselves the way we show up for others? Do we honor our own word, or are we quick to break the deals we quietly make with ourselves? This is the difference between fleeting motivation and lasting discipline. When you tell yourself you'll wake up early, go for a run, study for an hour, or eat clean today, what you're really doing is making a promise. It might be a small one. It might seem insignificant. But every time you follow through, you build trust with yourself. And every time you break that promise, you weaken that trust. Over time, your brain starts to doubt your own words. If you say, "I'll start tomorrow," and tomorrow comes and goes without action, your subconscious takes note. Eventually, your words lose power even to you. Keeping promises to yourself builds internal strength. You no longer need others to hold you accountable because you've built that muscle within. You've become your own guide, your own leader. That kind of self-leadership is rare and it's powerful. It means your progress is not dependent on external motivation or pressure. It comes from a deeper place, a place of personal responsibility and inner commitment. Every broken promise, on the other hand, chips away at your confidence. It tells your mind, "We don't follow through." And when your mind hears that message enough times, it stops believing in your goals. It stops even trying. That's why so many people feel stuck, not because they lack potential, but because they've trained themselves not to believe in their own intentions. The good news is, this can be reversed. And the way to do it is to start small, start honest, and start now. When you commit to something, ask yourself first, can I really do this, not in theory, but in practice? Can I keep this promise every day, even when life gets messy, even when motivation fades? If the answer is no, adjust the promise, make it smaller, make it so easy that you know you can follow through, because the goal is not to impress yourself. The goal is to rebuild that inner trust, to prove to yourself day by day that your word means something. Self-discipline is not about being perfect. It's not about never missing a day or never making a mistake. It's about showing up again. It's about returning to your promises when you fall off track. When you've built a foundation of trust with yourself, failure doesn't feel like the end, it feels like a temporary detour. You're able to bounce back, not because of willpower, but because of belief. You believe that you can do hard things because you've done them before. This principle applies across every area of life. Want to get in shape? It starts with keeping the promise to move your body today. Want to build a business? It starts with keeping the promise to take one action today. Want to improve your relationships? It starts with keeping the promise to be more present, to listen, to show up. The action itself matters, but what matters even more is that you do what you said you'd do. That's how you build credibility with yourself. There's something deeply empowering about looking back at the end of the day and knowing you did what you said you would. Even if it was just one thing, even if it was hard, that feeling compounds. It creates momentum. It becomes a reason to keep going. The more promises you keep, the stronger your identity becomes. You stop identifying as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who does asterisk. You become reliable, not just to others but to yourself. Think about how you treat your best friend. If they broke plans with you over and over, you'd eventually stop trusting them. You might still love them, but you'd lower your expectations. Now imagine that relationship with yourself. If you've been breaking promises to yourself for years, it's no wonder your confidence is low. It's no wonder discipline feels like a struggle. The answer is not self, blame, or shame. The answer is rebuilding the relationship, starting fresh, making one promise today and keeping it. The moment you keep a promise to yourself, something shifts. It might be subtle at first, a little spark of pride. A small voice that says, "See, you can do this." That voice gets louder the more you listen to it. Eventually, it becomes your inner guide. It reminds you of your power, even when doubt creeps in. And that's where discipline really lies. Not in the absence of doubt, but in the decision to act anyway. You don't need to prove anything to the world. You don't need applause or recognition. What you need is your own respect. And that respect is earned, not given. It's earned in quiet moments, when no one sees, when it would be easy to skip the task, to hit snooze, to delay one more day. But you don't. You keep the promise. And in doing so, you shape your future. Keeping promises to yourself is also a form of self-love. It's telling yourself, I matter enough to follow through. It's choosing your growth over your comfort. It's choosing the person you want to be over the habits you've outgrown. There's no shortcut here. Just small intentional decisions repeated over time. That's what forms character. That's what builds resilience. You don't have to fix everything today. You don't need to master every habit or solve every challenge. Just pick one promise, keep it, then do it again tomorrow. Let your actions become your language. Let your follow-through speak louder than your intentions. Let your discipline be a quiet revolution, one that begins with a single, honored commitment. Discipline creates long-term freedom. This idea might seem like a contradiction at first. People often associate discipline with restriction, limitation, or even punishment. They see it as something that takes away their options, something that boxes them in, but the truth is the opposite. Discipline is not a prison, it's a pathway. It doesn't take away your freedom, it creates it. When you build a disciplined life, you gain control over your time, your choices, your energy, and ultimately your destiny. That kind of control is the truest form of freedom there is. Most people live reactively. They wake up each day and respond to whatever comes at them. They're constantly putting out fires, adjusting their plans, and chasing the next urgent thing. In that kind of life, there is very little freedom. There is no room to breathe, to create, or to move with purpose. It's a life ruled by chaos and reaction. Discipline flips that dynamic. It allows you to live proactively. When your day has structure, when your goals are clear, and when your habits support your vision. You're no longer reacting. You're leading. You're making intentional choices that move you forward. Freedom is not the ability to do anything you want at any time. That kind of freedom is usually a trap. It leads to distraction, delay, and often regret. True freedom is the ability to do what matters most when it matters most. And that kind of freedom comes from preparation, focus, and the self-control that only discipline can provide. It's the student who studies daily, so they don't have to panic the night before the test. It's the entrepreneur who manages their time, so they're free to take a day off without their business falling apart. It's the artist who builds a routine, so their creativity has space to thrive. When you're disciplined with your time, you start to realize how much more of it you actually have. So many people feel overwhelmed, not because they have too much to do, but because they have no plan. Their hours are consumed by distractions, scattered attention, and things that don't move them closer to their goals. Discipline helps you protect your time. It teaches you to say no to what doesn't serve you and yes to what does. It gives you the power to decide where your energy goes, instead of letting the world decide for you. Financial freedom works the same way. Discipline with your spending, saving, and investing may feel like a sacrifice in the moment, but over time it creates choices, it creates security, it gives you options. You're no longer stuck in survival mode. You don't have to take the job you hate or stay in the situation you've outgrown. You have the freedom to walk away, to pivot, to build something new, because you prepared for it. That preparation didn't happen overnight. It came from consistent, disciplined action day after day. Discipline is also the foundation of personal freedom, the freedom to be proud of who you are. When you live with discipline, you live in alignment with your values. You become someone you can rely on, someone who acts with integrity. That kind of self-respect is liberating. You don't need to chase validation or approval from others. You don't need to pretend or perform. You know who you are and you trust yourself. That inner peace is one of the highest forms of freedom, and it's only available to those who live intentionally. There's also freedom in health. When you take care of your body through disciplined habits, nutrition, movement, rest, you increase your capacity for life. You have more energy, you recover faster, you can do more, enjoy more, live more. People often think of a healthy lifestyle as restrictive, but ask anyone who's struggled with illness, injury, or fatigue that's restrictive. Discipline protects your body so you can live fully. It's not about perfection, it's about stewardship. It's about respecting the vessel that carries you through life. Mental and emotional freedom also come from discipline. When you develop routines for reflection, journaling, mindfulness, or prayer, you create space for clarity. You're not at the mercy of every emotion or passing thought. You can sit with discomfort without being overwhelmed. You can focus without being scattered. You can stay grounded in the middle of pressure. That kind of inner stability doesn't just happen. It's trained, it's practiced, and it starts with the small disciplines that strengthen your mind and heart over time. People who lack discipline often feel trapped in cycles they can't break, in habits they want to change, in environments they feel powerless in. But the door to change is not locked. It just requires consistency. The more you show up for yourself, the more power you claim. You realize that your future is not something you have to wait for. It's something you can build. You don't need to be the most talented, the most gifted, or the most lucky. You need to be consistent. You need to be willing to do the small things that add up to the big things, and that willingness comes from discipline. When you commit to discipline, you're committing to your own freedom. You're choosing delayed gratification over short-term comfort. You're choosing the long road that leads to real results instead of the shortcut that leads to nowhere. And along the way, something changes in you. You become stronger, more focused, more resilient. You stop needing life to be easy because you've become capable. You stop waiting for perfect conditions because you've learned to create progress with what you have. You stop doubting whether you can do it because you've done it again and again. Discipline trains you to keep your word, to follow through, to take responsibility, and those qualities unlock doors. They earn trust, create opportunity, and build momentum. You become someone who not only dreams, but executes. Someone who doesn't just set goals, but achieves them, and with every win, your freedom expands. You're no longer held back by fear, by bad habits, by excuses. You're free to become who you were meant to be, to do what you were meant to do, and to live a life that's not just full, but fulfilling. Discipline creates long-term freedom, and at first, that might sound like a contradiction. Most people believe freedom means doing whatever you want, whenever you want, but that kind of thinking often leads to chaos, burnout, and regret. True freedom, the kind that brings peace, control, and fulfillment, only comes when you take responsibility for your actions, your time, and your direction. Discipline is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. It's not a restriction, it's a release. It releases you from the grip of impulse, laziness, distraction, and regret. It frees you from being a prisoner of your moods, of other people's demands, or of circumstances that don't serve your purpose. Without discipline, life becomes reactive. You spend your days bouncing from one distraction to another, saying yes to everything and getting pulled in every direction. You don't own your time owns you. You don't lead your day leads you, and over time that creates a feeling of being stuck. You want to get ahead, you want to grow, you want to feel in control, but you can't figure out where all your energy is going. Discipline is the key to regaining that control. It's the conscious act of creating structure, of deciding what matters, and aligning your daily behavior with that decision. Discipline is what allows you to protect your future from the pull of the present. It teaches you to delay gratification, to say no to what feels good now in order to say yes to something even better later. It's what separates someone who wishes from someone who achieves. Wishing feels good, but it doesn't move you. Discipline does. It's action over emotion, consistency over convenience. It's waking up and showing up, even when you don't feel like it, because you made a commitment, and your commitment means more than your current mood. When you build discipline, you start to create freedom in every area of your life. Financial freedom begins when you discipline your spending. Emotional freedom begins when you discipline your reactions. Physical freedom, energy, strength, health, begins when you discipline your body, and creative freedom, bringing ideas to life, begins when you discipline your focus. Without discipline, these forms of freedom are just ideas. With discipline, they become your reality. Time is one of the greatest areas where discipline creates freedom. When you don't manage your time, you feel rushed, overwhelmed, behind. But when you begin to live with time disciplines, scheduling your priorities, setting boundaries, honoring your routine, you begin to experience time differently. You create space. You become proactive instead of reactive. You start to feel like the day belongs to you, not the other way around. And from that place, you can think clearly, plan wisely, and live intentionally. Most people don't feel free because they're stuck in cycles they can't break. They keep repeating the same mistakes, falling into the same habits, wasting time in the same ways. They want something different, but they keep doing the same things. Discipline is what breaks the cycle. It interrupts the pattern. It brings awareness and structure to what used to be automatic and unconscious. You don't drift through your days anymore. You take charge. You decide what changes, and you follow through. Discipline also creates confidence. When you say you'll do something and you actually do it, you build trust with yourself, and that trust compounds. You stop doubting whether you can succeed because you've got proof. You've shown yourself that you follow through, even when it's hard. That belief in your own consistency becomes a kind of freedom. You're not relying on luck, on motivation, or on anyone else to get you there. You're relying on your ability to keep moving, to keep building, to keep doing what needs to be done. There's also a kind of peace that comes from discipline. Life will always have stress, but when you're disciplined, you're not constantly playing catch-up. You're not overwhelmed by the chaos. You've created order, and that order gives you breathing room. It allows you to slow down without falling behind. It gives you the space to rest because you've earned it, not because you're escaping something, but because you've prepared for it. Rest without discipline is often guilt-ridden and full of anxiety. Rest with discipline is pure, it's restorative, it's deserved. Discipline isn't something you're born with, it's something you build. It's not a personality trait, it's a skill, and like any skill, it gets stronger with use. The more you practice discipline, the easier it becomes, not because the tasks are easier, but because you've grown stronger. You've built the muscle of follow-through. You've learned to do the hard thing not once, but every day, and that daily effort shapes not just your habits, but your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and starts seeing yourself as someone who does. It's important to understand that discipline doesn't have to be extreme to be effective. You don't have to overhaul your whole life overnight. You just have to make one small decision and stick with it. One small daily habit done consistently can change everything. The key is to choose progress over perfection, to accept that you won't always feel like doing it, but you'll do it anyway. Because the freedom that comes from living a disciplined life is worth far more than the temporary comfort of giving in to excuses. When you're disciplined, your life becomes intentional. You don't waste time chasing shortcuts or looking for quick fixes. You commit to the process. You trust that small steps taken consistently will lead to big results, and they do. Over time, your efforts compound. The days turn into weeks, the weeks into months, the months into years, and suddenly you're living a life you once only imagined. Not because it was handed to you, but because you built it. You showed up, you stayed steady, and you chose discipline when it would have been easier to drift. That choice gives you freedom, not just today, but for every day ahead.